Hi everyone, Isabel Fox here. A girl never forgets her first, and I'll never forget the first booking I did with a client back in a brothel when I was 18, and it's mostly because I'll never forget how it felt to have absolutely zero idea what the hell I was supposed to do. Now, unluckily for me, it was also my client's first time, and he was extremely nervous, so it was entirely on me to take the lead. And well, safe to say, it wasn't the smoothest, most graceful, or sexiest booking in the world, but both I and the client, we got through it. And so now, I want to pass on the wisdom I desperately wish someone had told me before I ended up alone with a client in a bedroom, which took me a few bookings to get down pat, and then years to perfect. So fellow escorts, listen closely, because I'll be sharing tips on how to improve each phase of the booking process as I go. And for any non-escorts out there who have ever been curious or intrigued as to what goes on behind closed doors between an escort and a client, then pay attention, because in just a second, I will reveal what all the fuss is about. Now, the general flow of a booking is typically the same regardless of where and how the booking takes place. But because bookings can happen in varying locations and get set up in various ways, sometimes the first step, which I'll call the introduction, can be a little different depending on these things. However, after that, most bookings tend to follow this general pattern. You've got introduction, then the warm-up, then the acrobats, then the cool down, and then a little bonus step here, which I'll talk you through, is nurture. So let's start at the beginning at introduction. The introduction phase includes two steps. You've got business and you've got hygiene. Now, if you're in a brothel or a parlor, there's kind of a step before this, which is called introing the client, which is where you meet the client alongside every other working girl who's there that day, and he makes his selection. Most brothels have private meeting rooms that the client sits in, and then each girl goes in one by one individually, introduces themselves, tells the client about themselves and what she offers. He gets to ask questions, and usually this whole process lasts for no longer than 5 minutes. In fact, it's usually a bit shorter, because in most places, there's usually a time limit on how long you're allowed to intro a client for. And girls can get very nasty and very catty when you take up too much time. Some brothels have open lounges, where instead all the available girls are like milling around, and the client sits somewhere and each girl is supposed to go up to him one by one. So either way, usually the client gets to view and chat briefly to everyone that's available before the host then goes up to him, asks him who he likes and how long he wants to book for. Then the host arranges the payment and assigns the client and the escort a room. Now, most brothels have around 10 rooms, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the size. And on the way to the room, the escort usually has to collect some sheets and towels and then goes to the room and does like a mini setup. And there'll be a shower and a toilet and a large bed with a covering of some kind. So the escort will set up the bed by laying out a clean sheet over it, and then voila, you're ready to go. Now, if you're not in a brothel, so if you're an escort where the client comes to you or you go to them, then all the booking details are arranged in advance, either through an agency or by text or by email. And you're not going to go through the whole room setup process, because wherever you are, either at your own place or at a hotel, it's all going to be set up already. So now, wherever you are, let's assume you're now with the client at the very start of the booking. The introduction phase of the booking always includes sorting out business and hygiene. So once an escort is alone with a client, she will take payment, which is usually cash in an envelope, which any good little client should have prepared and ready to hand over without being asked. Most escorts ask their clients to shower at the start of their booking. Sometimes they will also shower, either with the client or without them. Now, before the client showers, the escort will perform a health check. It's not terribly scientific. She'll simply get the client to pull his pants down, usually in the bathroom under a bright light, and before he showers, she'll take a look at his entire area. Now, ladies, please don't do the health check after the shower. It must happen before. And what we're looking for here is any obvious STIs or issues. Now, unfortunately, there are some diseases like chlamydia that rarely present visual symptoms, so the escorts are usually on the lookout for things like herpes, thrush, and warts, or just any obvious problem. I've known some escorts who treat this like a proper medical procedure, down on their hands and knees, moving things around, feeling things. I even knew an escort once who had a torch and a little magnifying glass, and she would actually move clients into different set positions to ensure she could see everything, and then also looked all inside their mouths. Most escorts I've ever known don't take this approach. They usually do a short look, but a thorough look, and if everything looks normal, then they'll move on. If it doesn't look normal, then it depends on what they see as to what they'll do, and it also depends on what level of sexual protection they're using. For example, while most penetrative intercourse engaged in via sex work legally requires a man to wear a condom, that doesn't always include oral sex. Some places legally allow uncovered oral sex. So some escorts offer what we call natural oral sex, and this basically means a blowjob with no condom. If a problem is found during the health check, then depending on the problem, an escort will either offer an alternative service or cancel the booking entirely if she feels uncomfortable, or if she thinks her health is at risk by seeing the client in any way. For example, if a client has a cut on his penis, an escort might tell him that she has to use a condom and offered a covered blowjob in place of a natural blowjob, which was perhaps what was organized during the booking, instead of just choosing to cancel the booking entirely. If you do see an issue down there, it's always simplest to just, at least as a first step, ask the client if he knows what it might be. For example, some men have skin tags in that area, which can be completely harmless. If you're working in a brothel, you can always ask another girl to come in and offer a second opinion. If the client clearly has something, then please charge a cancellation fee if you can and end the booking immediately, because there's almost zero chance they didn't know about it already, which means they made the decision to risk your health just to get their rocks off. So they should be punished financially and scolded morally and sent on their way. Then also report them in any escort client database you have access to. Yes, dear clients, we have databases and we are reporting you and sharing all the information we have on you if you do something as idiotic as turning up to a booking with an escort with an issue down there. But thankfully, most of the time, clients don't pull these kinds of tricks and they pass the health check with flying colors. They then shower, mouthwash, and the escort will either be waiting for them in the bedroom if they showered separately, or walk with them into the bedroom or another area and walk straight into phase 2, which is the warm-up. 80% of bookings start with kissing. So I've got some news for you. Pretty woman lied to you. Most escorts kiss. If you're willing to offer sexual intercourse for pay, you're usually, of course not always, willing to kiss for pay too. Just think about how sexual interaction starts between you and a partner. Now, there's usually a lead-up, a warm-up phase, and this is no different in a booking. So most escorts start warming the client up by kissing them, and then they'll usually move to oral sex on the clients. Some clients will repay the favor, and others will not. Also, obviously, depending on what the escort offers. Now, if you want to improve your bookings, this is where you should focus most of your attention. And so I recommend you get more creative in the warm-up phase. And here's 3 ways you can do that. Here's 3 ways you can change things up. Number 1, start the warm-up outside of the bedroom. Most clients are used to having sex in their bedroom. So don't be boring. Change it up. Do something different. Start on the couch or in the kitchen up against the wall, or even better, start the fun in the shower. The best escorts make even the formalities of a booking, like showering, feel like hot fun. Number 2, make sure the bedroom has lots of mirrors and good lighting. If it's your own place, then you really want to invest in big mirrors everywhere. And while you don't want the lights super bright and all the way up, as it kills the mood, make sure your client can visibly see you and see everything you're doing. Most good brothels have mirrors on the ceiling for a reason, and clients love it. And start the warm-up before the introduction. Now, obviously, getting the money and showering and the hygiene check is important, but you want to create the feeling of an unpaid encounter. When you go shopping at Louis Vuitton, the experience starts the second you walk in the door. So a store person greets you, they ask you your name, they get you a drink before they ever ask you what you're looking to buy. And we want to do the same thing, create the same experience with our clients, not in a way which compromises our health or safety. So don't actually have sex with the client before you do the health check. But you can kiss a client before showering. You can push him up against the wall once you're alone with him and tell him, or better yet, show him how excited you are to be alone with him. If you're meeting a client for the first time in the room, like when the client comes to you at an in-call, then you might need to gauge a client's comfortability before doing this, because some clients are shy and actually need to warm up themselves, and so you don't want to move too quickly if they're visibly nervous. But if you've seen the client before, or if you can tell he's comfortable and confident as soon as you see him, or if you're at a brothel and you've been talking to him, walking him up to the room already, and you can see that he's okay, then don't wait to start the fun. Now, most escorts wait. Most escorts chit-chat and go through the formal business motions before becoming intimate. So you want to set yourself apart and be different. Make the client believe you're so excited to be with him that you just can't wait to get your hands on him. Step number 3 in the booking process is acrobats. Another reason it's a good idea to change up the warm-up phase and do something different is because the acrobats, the actual sex with the average everyday client, doesn't actually last that long. If as soon as the client walks in, you take the money, he has a power shower, which is what he's likely to do because he's excited and in anticipation of being with you, then you whiz through the warm-up. If a client has booked for an hour, you don't want to be having sex after just 15 minutes. Because when he inevitably finishes 6 minutes later, he will be done and feeling annoyed that he paid for a whole hour when he could have just spent half as much and booked 30 minutes with you. And you'll be feeling stressed and pressured trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do for the next 39 minutes. And I'll tell you what will happen. After a max 10 minutes of rest and some polite chatting, the client will be thinking with his wallet and wanting to make the most of the money he spent on you. And so he'll try to go again. But he will struggle because a lot of men actually can't go twice back to back, at least not in a short amount of time. And even though you and I both know this, the client won't want to believe it because hell, this is his moment. And he just spent a few $100 or maybe $1,000 or more on you, lied to close people in his life, left work during the day just to make this all happen. And who knows when he will get his chance to do this again. So damn it, he will be determined to become the reincarnated 25-year-old version of himself, and he will try to go again. But guess what? Even though there's technically 29 minutes left on the clock at this point, while you and I know that 29 minutes also needs to include the time he takes to shower and dress before leaving, the client doesn't know that, or he's not thinking about it, and this certainly isn't the right time to bring it up. So his 29 minutes is actually 20 minutes at best, and let's face it, most 40-something-year-old men don't have it in them to make the magic happen twice in a row with only 20 minutes to do it. So you see where I'm going with this, right? Trust me when I say you want to avoid this scenario as much as possible, because it's really unpleasant for you and it's really unsatisfying for the client. You don't want to end up trying to satisfy a client twice in 1 hour with only 20 minutes left on the clock. It is really physically hard work for you and very demoralizing for poor old client. So you'll either be forced to go overtime or cut the booking short with a sweet, polite smile on your face. And many clients won't pay to extend at this point. So it is much better to draw out the warm-up, start the acrobats later into the booking, and finish with 15 minutes left on the clock. Because when you do, after 5 minutes of chilling out, the client will get himself up, shower, and go. And he won't attempt to start again. He will leave happily, feeling satisfied, like his money was well spent, and he will be far more likely to book again. Not only because he doesn't feel like any time and therefore money was wasted, but also because the very fact you drew out the warm-up phase likely means the booking went differently to whatever he's getting unpaid somewhere else in his life and to every other booking he's had with an escort. Because many escorts don't do this. Now, if you struggle to drag out the warm-up, or if the client is uncooperative and pushes it along despite your best efforts, then here's some things you can do to avoid the downhill spiral. Use toys. So having sex toys to introduce into the booking is always useful. Not all clients are into them, but if you've got ample time to spare, because a lot of clients haven't used them much, they will at a minimum be intrigued enough to see what they're about. You can offer a massage. It is actually really useful to be good at giving proper massages as an escort. You still want to make sure it's erotic, so do it naked and with oil, but if you can actually give a solid massage, many clients will happily lay there and kill 20 minutes while you give a solid back rub. This is what I like to call, look what I prepared earlier. Literally having anything ready on hand to do in this situation is better than doing nothing and just trying to have normal sex again. So you can have a variety of porn ready on your phone and show your client your favorite one. You can talk about doing it together next time, as well as asking him what he's into so you know for next time what you should try. Outfits. You can have a variety of outfits ready to try on for him. And although this is actually better done in the warm-up phase to delay the sex as opposed to doing it afterwards, it's still a good idea to have it on hand. Food and drink. So you can have little snacks or beverages that you can offer to a client. It's better to offer alcohol after sex than before for most people because alcohol can make it difficult for some men to perform, but it's a good idea to have it there as an option. You can have photos of you and your doubles partner. So if you have a doubles partner that you work with, have hot selfies and videos of you two together and talk about how much you'd like him to meet her. If she's comfortable with it even, you can call her with him in the room on loudspeaker and tell her how you want to meet this really hot guy who just rocked your world and ideally set up a second booking then and there. And lastly, tantric massage and tantra. You can take courses in these things or read books on it, and it's just another way to offer something different to your client that other escorts aren't offering. So although you've ideally actually delayed the acrobats, once they do happen, protection then goes on if it hasn't already, and a few positions will occur before the client finishes. Which leads us into step 4, the cool down. And this is what comes after the sex. I really don't like clients feeling like the experience is over just because the sex is. In my view, the booking is never done until the client has exited the room entirely. And in fact, even then, even after it's done, it's not actually done, because then comes our bonus nurture phase, which I'll cover shortly. But anyway, in the cool down, you want to continue the experience. Usually when a client's finished in the bedroom, he'll get up, shower, and get dressed. And most clients do prefer to do this alone. If you've already bonded with your client, you can go with him and keep things physical until he walks out the door. But some clients will actively get up and go and shower alone. And while they're doing this, you could put on a different sexy outfit like a little dress or a see-through robe and then have a drink or a water or something of that nature waiting for him. Also, think about having things available for your client to use to make his re-entry back into the real world as easy as possible. So you want to have things like male-specific body wash, aftershave, or body lotion. Any of these items which refresh but don't use a scent or only use a male scent. Smelling nice and clean is important, but clients really don't want to leave smelling like they were with a woman. So I recommend that you don't wear strong perfume or really any perfume, and certainly don't have any feminine scents in the shower area that he has to use. Have a mirror at the door. So make it easy for a client to look at himself and ensure everything is in order before leaving. Have breath mints, again, so he doesn't taste like anything untoward when he leaves. And lastly, be careful when you kiss him when he leaves. Be careful that you aren't wearing any lipstick or lip gloss. If a client goes home after seeing you and gets caught, he is never booking you again. This brings us all to step number 5, our bonus step, nurture. Here is something that 90% of escorts I've ever known just don't do at all, and it's called nurturing your client. I used to think of this as my follow-up process. So I would make sure I contacted my client almost straight away after our booking via text to tell him something special that I really liked about our time together. And you want to make sure that you're genuine about it. It's ideal if it's something sexual. You can also include a selfie of yourself so you can take it in the exact outfit you were wearing when he left. You can wait a few hours too before sending this message, but it really depends on what time you saw the client and whether or not you think it's appropriate to text his phone or if he can text back. So if you finish with him at 8 p.m. and he's going home to his wife, either don't text him at all if you didn't check with him first, or wait and text him the next day between 9 to 5. Again, I want you to imagine you went shopping at Louis Vuitton and tried on a bunch of stuff and made a really expensive purchase. Imagine how it would feel to have your personal sales assistant who took you around the store contact you the very next day and tell you what a pleasure it was to meet you. How amazing you look in those new shoes you bought. They compliment that dress you were wearing as well and said that you're going to look like a supermodel every time you wore them. Even better, imagine how excited you would be to shop there again if your personal assistant then said, "We've got new stock coming in next week. I would love to reserve you a private early bird viewing so you get access to it before the rest of the population." So we can take this opportunity to do something similar with our clients. You can tell him, "I loved every second with you. I can't believe you're into the same kind of girls that I am," referencing perhaps a lesbian porn that you watch together. "Look at my friend. She's just our type. I've told her all about you, and she's dying to meet you. She's only in town for another week. Let me know if you want to organize a time for the three of us before she goes. P.S. Here's a photo of the last time I was with her. We just need a man to complete us." So you see, the nurture phase is not only about completing the feeling of an exceptional 5-star experience, it also provides you with the perfect opportunity to set your client up for the next booking with you. You will make more money more consistently when you get very good at keeping clients coming back for more. And to do that, you need to put effort into providing an outstanding experience that's unlike anyone else's. This is how I was able to increase my rates again and again over 7 years. In fact, I had regulars who stayed with me from the time I started up until my highest rates of $2,000 an hour, who just kept paying more. I had one client who started seeing me in the brothel I worked at when I was 18, paying about $450 in total, who was still booking me 7 years later and spending $6,000 each time he saw me. And it's not because I was the prettiest, or the skinniest, or the youngest, but because every time I saw him, I truly tried my best to make every second feel like a heavenly escape. And it doesn't need to be hard. None of what I've just covered is rocket science. It just requires a little thought and effort. Now, this stuff took me a while to figure out, and I really wish I'd had the guidance and support of a more experienced escort when I was first starting to help me start doing this stuff so much sooner. Because if I had, I would have made way more money. So please, if you have any tips or advice that I've missed, then help fellow escorts out and comment below. And men, potential clients, don't be shy. We want to know what you want. If you've had an amazing experience with an escort before, then I am certainly curious to know why it was so good. Comment below and let me know. That's all for now. Comment, hit like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and share this with your friends. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.